On a quiet Jamaican evening, when the sun was sinking behind the hills and the yard smelled of smoke and roasting breadfruit, Breda Anansi came walking down the district road, rubbing his belly. Anansi was always full of plans, and most of them were designed to get him food without doing much work. As he passed Miss Ivy's gate, a sweet scent drifted through the breeze. She was outside by her fireside, turning 2 big roast breadfruits while a pot of saltfish rundown bubbled nearby. The flames danced, the dogs rested under the bench, and the whole yard carried the warm feeling of old-time country evenings that remind people of childhood. Anansi stopped, licked his lips, and whispered to himself that somebody nearby was cooking far too well for hungry people to be passing by. He peeped through the zinc fence, fixed up his face, and called out politely, saying he had only come to check on Miss Ivy because a good neighbor should always keep company. But Miss Ivy knew Anansi well. She answered that every time food was cooking, he suddenly became a neighbor, and every time work was being done, he suddenly became a traveler. Still, Anansi stepped into the yard and began his performance. He told one long story about nearly being washed away in the gully. Then he told another about seeing a strange light near the silk cotton tree. He laughed loudly at his own jokes, but all the while his eyes kept drifting toward the pot. Miss Ivy said very little. Instead, she handed him a fan made from old calendar paper and told him that if he truly came for company, he could help fan the fire. Anansi did not want to work, but the food was close, so he took the fan and began. The sparks rose up, the breadfruit skin crackled, and the saltfish smell grew richer and richer. His belly began making noise like a hungry goat. Before long, children from the lane started gathering around the fireside. One brought a stool. Another helped catch falling coal in a piece of coconut shell. Soon the yard felt alive with laughter and old-time evening spirit. Someone hummed a tune. Someone talked about school days, barefoot races home, and the joy of waiting for the first piece of roast breadfruit off the fire. When Anansi saw more people coming, he became worried. He quietly suggested that perhaps Miss Ivy should serve the elders first. Miss Ivy smiled and said that elders should set an example, and with that she handed Anansi the hot breadfruit to peel. Now Anansi's hands turned black with soot. His fingers burned, and the children laughed as he hopped from foot to foot blowing on them. But he kept peeling because he believed a good dinner was finally close. At last the food was ready. Miss Ivy served the children first. Then she called over old Mr. Bennett from next door. After that, she sent a plate to Sister P, who was feeling unwell. By the time she turned back to Anansi, only one small piece of breadfruit and a single spoonful of rundown remained. Anansi's face fell. He asked if that was all that was left. Miss Ivy told him yes, because food tastes better when the hands help cook it and the heart is willing to share it. Hungry and disappointed, Anansi took the little piece and ate it in 2 quick bites. But deep down, he had to admit that even that small bite tasted better than the free food he usually begged for, because this time he had worked for it. Miss Ivy leaned back and laughed. She told him that trickery might bring a person near the pot, but only honest help could bring them to the table. Trying to save face, Anansi straightened himself and said he had known that all along and was only testing her wisdom. The whole yard burst into laughter, because everyone knew Breda Anansi would say anything to protect his pride. Long after the fire settled into red coals and the children were called inside, people in the lane were still laughing about the sight of Anansi, black-handed and smoke-faced, peeling breadfruit like a proper kitchen helper. And from that day forward, whenever anyone appeared at the gate just as dinner smells began to rise, Miss Ivy would smile and say that no Breda Anansi business was allowed there. If you wanted to eat, you had to help. That is why old people always say that some of the sweetest childhood memories come from simple evenings in the yard, shared food by the fireside, and the lesson that a willing hand is worth more than a cunning excuse.